Hello there. My name is Linda Watson, and welcome to Inspire Me Equine, a season of the podcast Inspire Me Forward. I am the founder and the host of this sacred circle. Recently, it came into our hearts that Equine Leadership and Inspire Me Forward should collaborate. Equine Leadership is a publication of short stories sharing the voice and wisdom of the horse. It is now going into its 11th year. Inspire Me Forward, in its third year, is a podcast sharing stories of life and all the pieces that hold it together, even when it might feel like it is falling apart. This moment in time seemed like the perfect evolution of the two. It felt natural to invite the horses and authors from Equine Leadership. In this space, they will share their own unique ways of bringing the voice and wisdom of the horse to the human world. And so, this season, we will delve into that horse-human relationship and the paradigm that is the herd in Inspire Me Equine. Equine leadership has a unique vision. We believe that horses, living as close to nature as possible, can provide a paradigm of living that is clear, authentic, and heart-based. There is much to learn that is good for all of humanity, as well as the collective that we call Earth. Spending time observing and interacting with the paradigm of the horses is a move to simplify life, to connect with something profound and enlightening. Their natural way of life offers insight into our truest paths. When we step outside of the ring and into the herd, we experience a relationship of equity and compassion. So before we begin, let us take a moment to breathe, to connect our hearts with the present moment, and invite the horses to join us in this space. All right. So thank you for landing in the present with us today for our 45th episode of Inspire Me Forward in this season of 6 with Inspire Me Equine. And I am so thrilled today to have one of our authors with us from the Central Coast area of California. I have with me Kate Neligan. So welcome, Kate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, wonderful. I am excited to chat with you and just see where it goes. So, can you just tell us a bit about yourself to get started?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess I go by the role or title of equine partnered life and business coach. And really, it's evolved into more about spiritual growth. And I also do animal communication and healing work, as well as created Awakening with Equines, which is a certification program and also a card deck. And so I'm excited to explore Inspire Me Equine.
Awesome. Awesome. You don't have a card deck with you there, do you?
I do. I actually
Do
pulled a
you? You
card
want to pull one from
beforehand.
this? Did you?
I did. I wanted to see
Awesome.
like what would be best supportive for the listeners, and I got
Ah,
grounding and wisdom. So like grounded wisdom is what came in. Like, so maybe
nice.
that's like practical takeaways, but the ground
Nice.
that, just connecting to the earth energy, and then the wisdom is like connecting up through the higher realms,
Yeah.
what wants to come in. So that's what came forward, but I'm happy to pull
Nice.
one
Well,
as
let's do
we,
one at the end.
yeah,
Let's do one at
yeah,
the end. Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
How awesome was that? And we will definitely put a link to your card deck and such at on our summary. So, you wrote an article for our eighth edition, or our eighth volume of Equine Leadership. I used to call it magazine, but we're calling it a publication of short stories now. So I might flip back and forth there because I'm still learning to not say articles. But Kate wrote an article for our eighth edition, and it was called "The Awe of Horses: Catalyzing the Great Awakening." I love that. It's such a it's such a full title. It's just like, oh right, let's step into this. And so many people are ready to step into just into that title. So as with all of them, I read through and I find a piece in it that sort of I'm drawn to. But with yours, it was really just the first bit that just sort of catches anybody that reads it. So if I may, horses remind us of who we can be. They require presence, evoke awe, celebrate authenticity, and help us to awaken to our true nature. Just being just being and breathing with them can help us to reset the nervous system and to feel unconditionally loved and accepted. Sort of like a mic drop there. It's like, yep, that's what they do. Uh,
So true.
it's such a perfect, and I know sometimes we'll sort of flow back into that and touch base on that. But so let's just dive right in here. And we always start with asking you about a most memorable moment with a horse. Anytime in your life from day one on.
So it actually, when I was contemplating this, I was pretty happy because one just happened last night, literally. So very salient. I have been like processing some grief and loss, not just mine, but a lot of clients as well recently. And just like a lot of the heaviness that's also going on collectively. But I'm also in a position where I'm going to be moving with my animals, and that feels like a letting go and a loss process. So I am in a big leap of faith, and I was basically sitting under the night sky last night and, moving through some emotions. And I really got this awareness, like my faith needs to be as big as the night sky. Like and so I just held my faith that big. And then I went and just worked on opening my heart to match that. And lo and behold, my horse is about, 20, 30 feet away, eating out of her bucket and comes over and just gives me literally like a breath and then a nuzzle and almost like a kiss right on my cheek. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I just needed it. And so I went up to
Mhm.
her later and I just said, thank you so much for taking such good care of me, because it's like a friendship and like a beloved mother figure and, like a partner and just so many elements in that.
Mhm.
And what was even funnier, and then, she's really the one that's the most nurturing. But then I had like the little ego thought that we can have, and I was like, why is she the only one that? And then within seconds, my other mare came over and she kind of nudged me from the back and was like, I'm right here too. And then she ate a leaf right behind me and made a bunch of noise. And I swear she was like, just go eat a potato chip. Like she was like just bringing lightness to it because
Mhm.
I was grieving and was processing a lot. And so it's just like that being held inside of grief that is so beautiful
Mhm.
that donkeys have done for me. I've written stories about how donkeys have really held me in loss, and but it was just this like you're not alone. We're right here. We see the work you're
Mhm.
doing, and yes to that. Yes, that highlight or exclamation point on like your faith can be as big as the night sky. So,
Mm. I find that so interesting because I'm part of the piece I'm writing for this upcoming um, edition has part of it is about faith, and
mm,
I've never thought of faith as a size, as something that's I guess it's measurable. I have a lot or I have a little, but that feeling of it being grand, that's really interesting that you bring that up. I never really thought of it like that it could be that grand.
yeah. Because my fear of like, what if it doesn't work? What
Of
if we're
course.
homeless? What all of these what ifs, like that
Hmm.
fear can drive and be so consuming that it's like
Hmm.
all we get lost in it. It's like all we see. It's like a storm
Yeah.
we can't find our way out of. And so, but like I was like, how big can I let my trust get? And my life path, it's always been about trust. Like my lessons are
Yeah. Of
always about trust.
course. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was this like, like what does that mean and how do I expand to match? Because I know whatever we want to do next, we want to be there for a long time. I'm tired of like, being in
Hmm.
situations that just aren't a fit for us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Land and grow, and
Yeah.
root and bloom where we are. So
Yeah. That takes a lot of faith. Almost as big as the night sky.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, and
beautiful.
it's interesting because when you said that, I also thought, once I officiated a wedding and I wore a mustard seed, and there is something in that too, where it's like, can you have faith the size of a mustard seed and let that grow into what it is? Or if you think about the acorn and what the acorn grows into, in the entelechy of like inside this acorn is coated this huge oak tree, and I live in an area that's called Pass of the Oaks, and there's hundreds of oaks on this property where I am and all
Mm,
around, and it's like trusting that stuff will grow over time. It's, success doesn't happen overnight. And, it's like this constellation of where we're led on our journeys and each step is like moving us in the right direction, hopefully, and intentionally, if we ask for that, that it will move
exactly.
us in the right direction.
And how that the acorn doesn't question, or the
Yes.
seed is in the dark, but it doesn't question.
Yeah.
It just does naturally.
Exactly.
So
And I heard that once where it's like if you really practice faith, you have to realize it's sort of like putting your menu in when you're at a restaurant and you don't go and check on the chef and be like, "Are you sure you got it? Did you get it? Did you get it?" Like you're just waiting for them to deliver you the meal once you've ordered it. And I think of manifesting like that too. Like my job is to get super clear about what we want and the felt
yeah,
sense and the, why, which is, expansion, beauty, growth,
yeah,
sanctuary is the word I'm using. And so that then, the universe can co-create with me and prepare it. And I realized also one day, like, this isn't just up to me. All of my animals are manifesting with me. Like, this is about
mm,
their home too. It's not just about me and like me being the only one that gets to like make the decisions. Like, we're doing it as a family. And I
it's
have
a
to
yeah,
remember that just because
mm,
I'm not talking to them verbally, that non-verbally, we're all communicating and we're all working on this together.
absolutely, absolutely. It's a collective.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'd love to hear how you got your horse story, your origin horse story is how you got, not what you do now, but what was your path? How did you get to where you are with the horses
Yeah.
and the goats and all the animals that you have?
I think it really started when my mom was like, I think you're gonna love horseback riding. And I had always loved animals. Like that was my greatest love. My first word was cat. My teacher in elementary school went out and bought special cat stickers to grade my paper with because I was that obsessed. Like, so it was definitely like I was in love with animals. And I think she knew like this would be a way that we could, like it was almost like an activity that she thought I would really enjoy. So she took me for riding lessons and I did. I took to it really fast and loved it. And then my best friend was also really into it. So we were riding as kids. We went to sleepaway camp as kids. And then in college, there wasn't an equestrian club. So I started one with one of my friends and we were like competing and showing. And then fast forward to, I'm at a ranch as an adult and when I'm ready to like really leave corporate America. And I hear about horses doing this beautiful healing work with people and this space that they're holding. And I'm like, wait, what are the horses doing? Because I was used to riding. My whole life was like, on their back without any other real context. And I was like, I must see this. And so I was volunteering for equine assisted learning and therapy sessions with those in addiction and rehab in the area. And I was watching transformation happen so quickly. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, how is this happening? How are the horses doing this? And what's actually going on? And I fell in love with it because I loved how much people were changing and how light they were getting. So that kind of led me. But I think it was just, as a kid, I mean, I read all the horse books and I watched all the horse movies and I just, I loved it. But I also, on the shadow side of that, like I was bullied for my love of horses. I was neighed at in class and, I had like buck teeth and I was, like, I was made fun of for that and called horse. And I also, my parents were like, you're not getting a horse unless you get straight A's. So it created this
Mm,
huge, like almost like perfectionism stuff in addition to riding on the East Coast. And those kind of teachers back then, it was like we were barked at. And I didn't even realize there was this beautiful sentient being underneath me. I just was trying to like do everything perfectly when I was riding. So I've always had kind of like both sides to the horse world of both the light and the dark, seeing it
yeah.
both.
Yeah, that's a really good, really interesting point. The how we, many of us were brought up in that sort of hard world of we loved the horses and we loved that what we were doing, but there was this driven part of this that this is the only way to do it, and this is how you do it, and this and control. And I remember one of my coaches, my very first coach, was a very strict German man. And I remember being him being the first person I ever sweared at because I couldn't take it. It was just the power was just too much. And I think I swore at him one night, and I think I we stopped taking lessons there very quickly. Went to something a little softer, but
Yeah. Well, there's such an intensity to it. And I see it now too, even with certain trainers. And I've recently been asked to do communication work inside of the competitive horse world. And I'm really struggling on whether that's
mm,
something I want to be doing or not. And just trying to sit with it because I want to make a positive difference and I know I can. And at the same time, like it's hard to watch a lot of the
yeah,
stuff that I myself can't do anymore. Like I can't ride one of my horses with a bit and I can't put a horse in a stall. And like there's just certain stuff I can't do. And so,
mhm,
but I know that there's so many places that are like that. And there's like a continuum. So it's like if I only help the people who are doing it well, am I making a huge difference? I don't know. Versus
mm,
like actually going in, I kind of call it like the Trojan horse approach. Like you go into the areas where they least expect you and you can create big change there. So,
mhm, yeah,
so yeah, but it's an intensity. I was so barked at. Like I felt
yeah.
like I was, like I literally don't think I was breathing around horses for a very long time
Mm,
until I actually realized that breath was the best thing I could do with horses was
that's
deeper breath work.
that's powerful. Absolutely. And so true. Wow. So what did you do when you found that like said um you were assisting? What was that the next step for you from assisting to how to where you are with your own herd and your own collective? Where
Yeah.
how did you get from there to there?
At first I didn't know if I could really do this as like my offering in the world as a calling. And I remember I was in a session once and my mentor at the time had to go leave the session and she's like just threw it to me, like pass the baton and I just was in so intuitively in the moment of guiding this process. And I remember I said to a woman, I said, well, would you try just putting your hand on your heart and centering in there and breathing and seeing if that creates a shift with the horse. And so she did, and she was like, that was amazing. I never even thought to do that. Like I know, and it was just a basic form of like body awareness and regulation. And I don't even truly know where it came from, except that I have my master's in spiritual psychology and we did do similar stuff, but it was more just like intuitively, it was what I was guided to say to her. And it made such a big difference for her. And she's like, can I come back? Can I do sessions with you? And I went, okay. I think I'm finally ready. I believe in myself enough to start doing this. And at the time, there weren't a lot of like training programs. And so I started and I worked in the space and I just kind of listened, like, what do the horses want to teach right now? And so they'd say, well, we want to teach connection and play. And so I do a workshop on that. Or we want to teach we want to do meditations and with, so bring people and sit with us. And so I kind of was just listening and like yoga with horses and whatever kind of unfolded. And so I worked with other people's horses for a while, and then I ended up getting the opportunity to rescue a horse that was basically just going to be euthanized because she wasn't rideable. Like
Hmm.
that was it. And she was like one of the best healer horses I'd ever met in my life. And so I adopted her, brought her to a rescue, had an amazing group of people help me fundraise to have her. And that's kind of how it started with me working with or partnering with them. And before that, I had a horse that I was leasing, who was really my heart opener horse. She and I never did equine coaching together per se. She definitely worked me,
Hmm.
but she was more my first heart horse and soulmate horse that really just kind of helped me come out of the corporate mindset of go, go, go
Yeah.
to and like super results focused and
Mhm.
transactional focused to being like, hi, relationships more important. And she really taught me about like how love leads, and that's and her name is Felice. Her name means happily in Italian. And so
Nice.
she was my first guide, and then my second was Lindsay, my rescue mare. And so yeah, I've kind of in some ways I feel like I build what I'm doing around my horses and what they want to do and what they're offering, because I have a gelding now
Nice.
and he loves doing healthy masculine work. So now I have a bunch of like males that have come over the last year, which is exciting because I didn't think that
Yeah.
it was ready for that. And I'm glad to see that growing. So, yeah, my other horse really likes to teach more leadership, and she does things a very different way. And so she kind of picks and chooses who she works with. So, yeah, I feel like I kind of build around them now. I mean, I have my own goals of what I want to do, but like even with the card deck, they were like write down what we're teaching humans. So I'm just trying to give like a voice and put a spotlight on them and what they want to
Yeah.
bring through for humanity. Because I have my ideas, but I'd rather be it almost like from the horse's mouth if I can, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, for sure. How did you find you talked about working sort of corporate? How did you, what was that shift or that change in you? And maybe what have you carried over from the corporate world that has helped you here?
Yeah. I mean, the shift was really my mare, Felice, and she was a lease horse. She was not mine. She was my friend's, but um, at first it was, if I'm going to do this equine coaching thing, what does it look like if I put myself through it? And so
Hmm.
I had to unlearn all of these very driven type A go-getter
Hmm.
ways to the way of the horse, which is presence and grounding and softness and like lightness and intention. And she taught me. So I had all these shifts and I had to like almost let go of like my identity. And I
Yeah.
actually like a lot in my life changed. I don't have the same friends that I had when I was in corporate America, the same goals, the same desires. It all just changed. Um, when the horses came in, I say the horses took over my life. Like the horses became like the CEO, and I work for them now. And then, what I do like to keep the work ethic that I had in corporate America because I find some of the younger generations are not in the same space of work ethic where it's like, you expect them to show up and they're like, I don't feel like it. So they just don't show up. Like, and
Yeah.
that's hard for me. So I like to keep my kind of corporate work ethic because there's a standard there of
Sure.
excellence. And I still enjoy marketing. I did marketing for many years and I still enjoy
Nice.
like marketing. And I also really love storytelling, which is what I was doing in entertainment. It's using the power
Mm,
of video and media to share stories, and that's one of my great loves next to the horses is storytelling. So
yeah. So keeping the essence of what you were doing, not necessarily the environment that you were doing it in.
the environment, which is the culture, which was toxic, and also how I was doing it, which
Okay.
was through results over relationship and drive and burnout
Yeah.
over like feminine and balance and all of that. So
Hmm.
it was how I was doing it and like a lot of some of it was also just the people around me and like, the values changed. It was like a very ego-driven world and I was in that.
Yeah.
And then it became much more about a soul-centered, service-based world.
Nice. Nice. So, oh no, hold on. We got one more thing before we jump in the next one. I hear you have goats. I know you have goats. How did
Yeah.
they come? How did they, and how do they, how is their space? What is their space in the collective? And like, how did that all start?
Yeah, that started in a fun way. I was telling that story to someone earlier, to a client earlier. I did a sound bath with goats in Los Angeles at the time where I didn't know really much about goats besides like always enjoying them because I think they're spunky and fun and like quirky. And I'm a Capricorn, so the goat thing is like part of me. And I did the sound bath and I was like smiling for hours afterwards to the point where like my jaw hurt from smiling so much. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, if I love it this much, other people are going to love it. I want to share their joy. And I do think it is a joy thing where they bring that in the collective. What the horses sort of said was have people work with that or go in with them first and sit with them. And then there's more grounding, they're heart openers. They kind of bring people into that younger inner child awe and wonder space.
Hmm.
And then it's easier for the horses to like be with us from that heart-centered space. So in some ways they're kind of like the greeting committee. But they immediately put you in a space of novelty because
Hmm.
you're like, wait a minute, I'm learning from goats. Like, what am I doing? And I've done the goat yoga and I've done the goat sound baths and we did play therapy. We went over jumps with goats and we went did the goat hiking. And my friend still runs all of this stuff in Los Angeles, which is amazing. And what I wanted to do more was like, what is the emotional intelligence skills that goats are teaching?
Hmm.
Based on their way of being, which is curiosity, bravery. We say goat for it. Like they will goat for it for anything. Like that's their thing. And someone said earlier, I said, what quality do you really think they're sharing? And like, especially mine, they share a lot with companionship. Like they love to be together as a family. They take care of each other. They're great friends. They're very loyal. People often like they are so much like dogs, which they can be, but they're still at prey. They're prey
Yeah.
animals, and so I think, you know, I've heard that not all goats are like mine because some of them are still, they've had maybe more time as like livestock animals or they've been milked or whatever they've gone through or they still have
Hmm.
horns and all that. Mine have always been doing this since birth and,
Hmm.
on the farm where we got them in Colorado. And so they've always been cultivated in this space of like healing. And I find them to be great healers, just like the horses, honestly.
Nice.
So,
Nice. And
yeah.
I would imagine just being smaller, it's a different energy. Like just the fact they're smaller than a 1,200-pound horse and like you say, if they're the door opener or that preview, that's a really neat way of them sort of welcoming people in.
Yeah, and sometimes I get a sense that someone coming might need the goats more than the horses. And
Yeah.
it's because they're working on like really joy and they're
Mm.
working on, that connection. And there's a lot of petting. The goats, mine is especially loved to be pet and scratched. So there's a lot of the somatic, which if you look at,
Mm.
the Human Animal Bond Research Institute, if you're petting a dog, what it's doing to your cortisol
Of
and your heart
course.
rate. So it's similar with the goats, but ultimately I do find them to be easier for a lot of people because they're not, people are still afraid of horses. And I do work
Yeah.
with a lot of people that aren't around horses much or horses are new to them.
Mm.
And so is a level with the goats where it's like they feel safer right off the bat, and so that helps too.
Mm. Yeah. Nice. What a beautiful team.
Yes.
Putting them all together with yourself and the goats and the horses. That's a beautiful team.
And hopefully
Um,
more species in the future. That's one of
well,
my goals.
yeah. And somebody said to me once, it's also it's the sounds because they have different animals at the farm, and that people come and they might come to be with the horses, but then they're over with the cows, and the cows have this like this calming, just this calming sound. But the goats tend to, like you said, the childlike, and they tend to sort of enliven a bit.
Yes.
It's like speaking before we came on here, I spent the week with 12 chickens, and I was never spent the time in the energy of the chickens before. And I don't know, I find them very mothering and myself, and and they're not an animal that comes to you unless you're holding a piece of lettuce. But they're just, it's been really interesting to learn about another species.
Yeah, it is, right? And chickens are fascinating because they're very smart and they can be very nurturing and cuddly, especially if they've always felt that way. I've been
Yeah.
around them at different farms and ranches and also people who do partner with them in animal assisted work. And I do find that they're also, that's kind of something people don't expect too, right? Because they're
Yeah.
so known in the meat industry, obviously,
Of
and
course, yeah.
as something what people eat, but it's like when you actually get eye to eye with a chicken or hold them,
Hmm.
I do think like rabbits, I have a friend and client who does a lot of work with rabbits in this space,
Mm.
and it is this nurturing where you're holding them and they're close to your heart and they're small. And so
Yeah.
it kind of is humbling too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and from being with the chickens, it's something about the eggs, and it's being able to just like literally that gratitude every time I open where they lay their eggs, and I open it up, and it's like, thank you, ladies. It's just, yeah. Anyhow, moving back to the horses,
Yeah.
but and I think we can think of that with the horses too. It's just in different ways, and
Yeah,
that
yeah, it's
gratitude.
amazing. The egg thing is a beautiful thing. It's like a constant,
Yeah, very cool.
that's what they do. It's part of their constantly giving in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's look into what you do now. And or the sacred space you hold with the horses now. Um, I'm really trying to be cognizant of the words I use. So I'm trying to take out the word work as much as I can, yet I realize it's hard to do because that's just what we say. So I always think of it as like, what is it that you do in the sacred space of the horses?
I love that
At the
question.
moment.
And I totally want to ask you about the word work because I have not really known what else to call it. And even in the beginning days, I wasn't calling it workshops. I was calling it play shops.
Oh,
Because I'm
nice.
curious, yeah, I'm curious why you don't want to call it work. Because I don't like using the word use when it comes to horses ever. And that's a
No,
big one.
agreed.
I've taught, the people I train, like we don't use horses, or it's like go get those horses to use. And it's easy for it to slip out of our verbiage because we might even say like, oh, the fair I use is, we even use it human to human,
Mm,
but it's like, so it's an easy thing, but I'm trying to bring cognizant awareness to the word use. So I'm curious about
mm.
the word work for you, what that brings.
I think it's domestication and the that if we bring it to the human world, it's that we go to work, we come home, it's part of a routine, it's part of what's expected in our um domesticated world for humans. It's an expectation. So it becomes this thing that nobody really wants to do, but we have to do. So if we can, like, that saying that, love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's an old saying, but it's true. It's a joy, and it's a space that we share with the animals, and it becomes, until we can change the definition of it in our hearts and use the word work as something that we enjoy, like a good day's work on the farm is that's very different
Yeah.
than that. But I think the word work, when we're asking an animal to do it, becomes a control.
Yeah. Interesting.
The use is the same thing there. So I'm just really trying to, for me, it's just trying to soften that, and giving them the autonomy is like sharing the space with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so interesting because I'm someone that used to hate my work. And so I know what it's like to
Mhm.
have that, or I felt like I was working for the man. And so I had a hard time with the word work for a long time. And then working with corporate groups in that space where it's like they want to talk about work, I've thought about like how does work work for you? Right? Because that work has a double meaning. It can like how does work work? Work means it
Exactly.
works. Like it
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
it's not broken, it works.
Yeah.
So it's functioning. It's like so it's an interesting play where I've thought about how do we get work to work for us and work for everyone. We're like, but I like the word calling. Like, and I love how you're saying
Yeah.
sacred space. But for me, it's a call, like it's a calling or it's purpose.
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
I'm on my purpose. Um, and yeah, I don't feel like I really work. I mean, at all. And it's not efforting. And I don't really want it to be efforting for my horses either. I like them to choose in and out. Like the
Yeah.
gates not most of the time open, they can come and go whenever they need, or
Yeah.
work in a big field or a pasture. And there's always space if they need to walk away,
Yes.
because that's important to me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I love the sacred space thing because I feel like we need to start to talk about that word sacred more too. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just starting to hear that in the last couple months. That word is like there's a resurgence of that word, which I love.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, I go back to the I've been like farm sitting, and a good honest day's work on the farm is very different than trudging to work. So
Correct.
it's what we put into it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but I appreciate all that. That's it's an evolutionary thing, I believe.
It
Um,
is, and I
yeah.
think it's important to talk about it because I don't know if any of the people that I talk to and train are really considering it, and I really want them to consider it. That's why
Mhm.
I was like glad to that you bring that forward,
Mhm.
just like I want to bring forward the word use so that people like
Yes,
don't use
yes.
that.
No, no, no. But that's the domesticated.
It
Um,
is, it
that's the
is.
domestication of humans
Yeah.
is what we do to our animals, we're actually doing to each other. There is a mirror there in every aspect.
Although what I find interesting is like part of what I've always wanted to do is create like a video where people start to look at there's so much that we would do to horses that we wouldn't do to another human. You would
Mm,
never like just go grab your friend, throw them in your car, and take them to eat sushi with you if you absolutely hated sushi, right? Or
yeah,
to like you couldn't, or you got sick if you ate that. But meanwhile, like we do that with horses. We just like go take them and make them do stuff like for our own
yeah,
enjoyment or benefit. And I would love for people to just consider if you wouldn't do this to your best friend, why would you do it to your horse?
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's for my want of a better word, that is the hypocrisy.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that, for want of a better word, love, but there is that, and I mean, yeah, we could go down that rabbit hole.
We could. I just wanted to bring up, I
It's good.
love it
No,
because
it's good.
when you said I don't want to use the word work, I was like, this is juicy. And I want the people listening like that I'm going to share it with to also like
Yeah,
consider it because I don't even think they're considering that word.
yeah,
They're considering the word use, but I don't know if people are considering the word work. And I like
yeah,
us considering that word too because
absolutely.
words have power, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, when we look back and those words that we use, and I've got a list going of
Do
all the
you?
different yeah, all the different words that we use. I have a friend um, who works with horses over in England, and they don't use the word groom
Oh,
because what does grooming mean in an abusive relationship?
oh, interesting.
So a human comes in that's been in an abusive relationship,
Yeah.
and they start using the word groom.
Oh,
So they turn it around, and go, let's go brush the horse. Do you want to
yeah.
brush the horse?
Yeah.
But it's it's little things like that that we tend not to put much weight in
Oh, totally.
until one person goes, wait a minute, I was groomed. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like it just becomes this,
Yeah,
but I think this comes from a society and a business that we are not as trauma informed as we should be.
true. I agree on that. And also, I think where there's like, I don't know if it's like I think it's just a mindfulness, like a missing
Mm.
mindfulness, or this like, because I saw like a sticker at this horse park recently, and it said more leg, and I wanted to go scratch it out and be like more intention, like leg. Where horse doesn't need more leg? Like what? Like, oh, so anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, and I find that the more we know, the more responsibility we have, and then it can be hard and lonely as we get to holding the
Mm.
space. And I love that's why you have these conversations because it's like for people to consider, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
other
And they're all different. Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
So what is it that you do in the and you've talked a bit about your horses and how they each have sort of their thing they like to do. But if somebody were to come to your place and to have spent time with you and the horses, what could they expect?
Yeah, I think it looks different every time because I do base it off people's intentions and what they want to experience in terms of often it's like, releasing stress. Sometimes it is grief work. Sometimes it is improving relationships. Sometimes it's working on, I get a lot with mother wound, a lot with like, sister wound energy. So
Mm,
really starting to look at who they are, how they are awakening through different life lessons, and also what they're kind of healing from or dealing with. And I like to being like on the coach side, I like to always look at solution. I like to look at possibility and I like to look at future and not, I think on the therapist side, there's a lot with the past.
mhm.
We do go there when needed, but I'm kind of an interesting hybrid because I'm definitely not a therapist and I have my master's in spiritual psychology, which was taught by two therapists. So I have this lens
Yeah,
of being somewhat trauma informed and going through 2 years of like you name it, I've heard it in the human
yeah,
realm of trauma, and I can hold space for that. So people come when they're ready to do the deeper dive, like, but I love helping people grow intuition. And a lot of it looks like us standing around with the animals or sitting with them.
yeah.
It's super boring looking. My one horse does like to do some leadership coaching on halter and lead. So she will
Mhm.
literally walk up and touch the halter and like say like, "Hey, let's do this together."
Yeah.
And that's something she wants to do. And she kind of feels like she can teach that way through more movement. But we're, eye to eye and really like today, there was people wanting to just touch. And I
Mhm.
said, would you stand here and just receive and like relax your shoulders, just open up your body and receive. And then my horses
Mhm.
get to choose where they want to touch, what they want to do, and where their energy work is going. So
Mm.
I believe they're doing a lot of energy work, and that's the space that I hold for them to be able
Nice.
to do that. And I was really like happy when they left today. They said, gosh, we've never done something like this before because they're used to the traditional,
Yep.
equine assisted learning space, which is more exercise driven.
Mhm.
And there's learning in that. I'm just a big fan of it. Like it's got to be as fun for the horses as it is for the humans because if it's
Yeah.
just human centric, and I've learned from those models, it I don't know if the horses are really happy in that space. And then like I don't really want to do it because I love horses so much. And part of why I learned animal communication was to get back to them, is to be able to hear them, to be
Mm.
able for
Yeah.
them to be like, yes, this is a yes, or no, this is a no. Like, so I can honor them better and their choices.
Mhm.
But I do, my favorite thing is what my mare Lindsay taught me, which she was like, stop doing and just stand here and receive. And then
Love
all
that.
of the
Yeah.
magic opened in that
Yeah.
moment. And I started to actually feel what the horses were really doing. So
Receiving is a hard thing.
for a lot of people, yeah,
Yeah. Receiving. But I heard once, that was brilliant. To actually receive with your hands, you have to open your fists.
yes,
and
Yes.
open and let go of that tension and open. And I was like,
It's
ah,
vulnerable. Yeah.
it
It's
is. And
vulnerable.
there's an art, there really is an art to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a like a mini surrender and a vulnerability. It's
Yeah.
definitely intimate. And a lot of people are trained, especially those who've been around horses, to like, oh, the horse is like pushing into my space. I have to set a boundary and I have to tell the horse what to do. And I'm like, no, like, trust me. I mean, like, if my horse is gonna get like pushy with you, like, I've got you and we'll work on it. But I'm like, I usually it's like the more you soften, the more the horse is gonna soften and not even
Exactly. No
inch.
need for boundaries. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a really fun thing to play with. It's such a simple little thing, but it's
Yeah.
so
I
profound.
love
It
that.
made the biggest difference for me
Oh,
personally.
yeah. It's like less is more.
Yes. Yeah.
This is more. And the idea of, and I just see it all the time in the space I share with them, is this concept that we as humans tend to bring that touch means love.
Right.
And there's this misconception. And to be able to stand back and receive that love without the touch is paradigm shifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just I didn't know. Like just because that horse isn't coming over and putting his head on your heart or touching your hand, does that really mean that they're not sharing love with you?
Yeah.
Oh, mind blowing.
Yeah.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I've had people say it's really hard for me not to touch. And
Yeah.
some of that is a control thing that they just
Mhm.
get to look at. And sometimes it's this is my way of bonding. This is my way. And I'm also like, would you like it if my way of touching you was to just come up and start petting your face? And they'd be like, oh my God, no. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. And they're so
Yeah.
sensitive. So I'm like, you know, but what's such a game changer is when a horse then comes in and is so soft with them when they
Mm,
open to receiving and they realize the horse isn't going to use their power over them or against them. They actually realize the horse is
exactly.
going to contribute and make a contribution that way. And then it's like even more meaningful
Yeah.
because they didn't get it, they just allowed it, right?
Well, and that it goes back to that control of we look at when we were children, oh, go hug Auntie so and so, or go
Yeah,
let somebody hug you or touch you in a way that as a child you probably went, I don't like that.
exactly.
And so now we've been grown up and ingrained in this touch where it has to happen. And that is the only way there is
Yeah.
unless you've done a million meditations and or done the work on that. That is the only way your body knows is
Yeah.
touch.
It's so
So
interesting. I'm super grateful. I do have some younger clients sometimes that come, and the first thing they say is it okay if I touch her? Can I touch him?
nice.
They'll ask me. And I'm like, thank you so much for asking. And then I'll be like,
Mm,
why don't you read if the horse likes it or not? And like they'll kind of go in and I'm like, just watch the subtleties, watch if a
yeah,
horse leans in a little more, or just turns away from you. And
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, if you can read this, like you can bring this into your relationship,
Hmm.
into any intimate encounter, right?
It's so that is so hard for people to grasp. I used to take some of the energy work that we used to do, and I say that is noticing those subtleties and being at a distance from a horse and seeing that from a distance and then seeing it closer and closer and and then actually doing it with another person. And I remember doing that in office spaces and with teams. And I'd hear people go, "Oh, but she's my best friend. I go hug her all the time." I'm like, hmm, does she always want to be hugged?
Right.
And the first time somebody actually said to me, sort of put their hands up and said, I don't want a hug today, I was horribly offended.
Oh, wow.
I was so offended. I thought, what did I do wrong? Until somebody said to me, it's what you did right. That she felt comfortable enough to say to you, not today. I just don't feel it.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
totally.
oh, never thought of it that way. And life changed, like that whole thing shifted and changed.
Totally.
But this
Yeah.
idea of people don't, we're not watching those subtleties in each other.
No, and I mean the first experience I had with this whole world of equine assisted work or learning and therapy was this thing where we would ask those who were in recovery to go say hello to a horse, and they would put their hand out like this, the way a nose would touch a nose in the horse
Hmm.
world, and we would just ask them to do a nice high respectful hello. And some wouldn't get close enough and wouldn't even give themselves a chance to make a
Hmm.
connection. Some didn't get it right away, so they took it and they immediately like went for it and like kept petting, the
Hmm.
horse's face. And some got a really like sweet acknowledgement and like a very nice, respectful hello. And I remember that was like the first real like activity or thing I learned, and it was profound. It still is. I
Hmm.
still utilize that a lot, which is
Sure.
you're going to see how someone is right away. How are
Yeah.
they in situations? And I'm like a reformed, I need to touch a horse all the time. And like
Hmm.
even right before this, I went to go like kind of like move the mane out of my horse off my horse's ear, and she just turned her head to me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't want me touching you. And I immediately apologized because I know she's like, stop it. And I was like, and so, but I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry,
natural.
and
Yeah.
but I had my mentor, my second mentor was like, she encouraged me to ask permission before I even entered a horse's area or
Hmm.
stall. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like this is going so different than I was taught as a kid to just pull harder on their mouth,
Of course.
right?
Yeah. Control, control. Yeah.
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 So I
Yeah.
was like, now I'm going to ask permission to go in a stall. Best thing that ever happened to me.
Of course.
Humbled me, got me
Yeah.
out of my human-centric, crazy, like,
Yeah.
speciesism, really. And so now I'm all about like, yeah, like let's go for the respect and let's go for the honor and let's
Mm.
really see. And so even like today, my horses didn't come over to say hi right away. One did, but two of them didn't. And I said, well, let's just let's read them. Let's see, tell me a little bit about what you see here. And as soon as there was an acknowledgement of like one of my horses, he just turned and he looked and he walked straight up to them and like just
Yeah.
stood there. And and I'm like, thank you for seeing him,
Yeah.
but that is a form of connection and love. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
power over touch stuff.
No, no. I call it bearing witness.
Yeah,
We're just
exactly.
we're just bearing witness. And I try to do that with my dogs
Nice.
because because they're closer to us more of the time. You get to start to read their body language. And um, we have one that speaks, she will speak with her eyes. Then she will dart her eyes from one space to another. But there's such a micro expression that unless you're heart-based and you're paying attention, you're not gonna see it. And another one that, the gold pat on the head, and she starts to do this. But if you insist, so I try to catch myself and go, oh, no, she doesn't want that. Why am I still pushing?
Yeah.
Why am I
Yeah.
keeping my hand there when she's literally going, pulling her head away, going, I don't really want you to do that now.
Yeah, there's a lot that they tolerate, but
Yeah,
if they could speak out loud, they'd be like, would you stop?
just,
Like
yeah,
if I touch one of my horses while she's eating, she turns and looks at me and she's like, I'm eating. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like she does not want me anywhere near her while she's eating. And I'm like, you
fair.
got it, girl. Like I get it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want someone touching me while I'm eating.
exactly.
It's
There
a
we go.
weird time to be touched. Like, come on, you know?
Exactly.
So
So funny.
I just think it's like we just get to pay attention more.
Yeah, exactly. And the signs are all there.
Yes.
So would you be willing to share a client story with us?
Gosh, I mean, there's just so
So
many.
many.
One of my favorites that I do tell a lot is I had a client come who didn't even know if she really liked horses or what she would learn. She was just open to different types of personal growth and trusted me, and we had been in the corporate world together. And there was a numerous different areas in her life that weren't necessarily flowing the way she had wanted. And stuff like she hadn't made some changes that she knew she needed to make. And she's like, I'm not getting any younger. I really want to have a kid. I want to get married. I want to be promoted. And like she just felt very stuck. And we were working with some minis, and I love minis because they're like they're the authenticity card in the card deck. They're very much like, they are horses, but in small bodies. And she had to kind of get down almost like on one knee to be eye to eye with a mini. And so we did some inner child work. We did some healing of the past and cleaning up some of the stuff from childhood and really working on forgiveness, self-forgiveness and compassion and she just felt so loved and seen by this mini and nurtured. And like that was an example of how she could nurture her inner child. So she committed to doing more of that work. And like within a very short amount of time, like her whole world changed. And it was like all of the things that she had been wanting came forward because she had committed to doing some of this, you know, um, inner space work where she wasn't feeling worthy or she wasn't feeling loved as she believed she couldn't have stuff as a child. And she loved this mini so much she actually put the mini on her phone and she gave up meat because she's like, how could I eat meat? I love this horse. And there was just so much, like there was so
Wow.
much depth in their connection that she felt such a reverence for this mini horse, that she felt a reverence for herself, and she felt like she needed to make changes from that space of honoring rather than like needing to or have to or judgments or shoulds. Like she just was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna honor what I want and what what would feel good to me. And so it was kind of a neat story. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the minis are super special. I really enjoy working with them. Because again, it's like a novelty to see a small horse. And they're still really mighty and really have so much to offer. And I kind of feel like it's a pattern disrupt for people because
Mhm.
people do have to deal with their power stuff around big horses. They just do. They have
Yeah.
to become present. But with a mini, it's almost like you get all the horse energy and it's in a small package. So it's a
Yeah.
totally game. It's like a game changer. So.
Yeah. A little bit of sass in there too, often.
Exactly. Most of them have some good sass.
Oh, that's interesting. And you said you've worked with donkeys before too?
Yes, I love donkeys. I've been thinking so much about donkeys lately, and I really want to get one. At some point, adopt. I'm going to go to a donkey sanctuary this month, actually, for a sound bath. So they are, I think, the best doing the grief support.
Really?
My sense of why is they're like kind of lineage or this religious history of like carrying Jesus, that kind of like they've carried our burdens, they've carried our physical
Oh, okay.
belongings, they've
Yeah.
been in that space. So now they're like carrying our emotional burdens, but they know how to transmute it. I don't see a donkey being like, oh, that's grief, let me hold on to your grief. It's like they're like, oh, that's grief, like let's move that up and out of your system. And I have found, are
Quite.
really grounding, really stable, like rocks. It's like crying into like this really like
Really?
protective space. And they give good hugs, like really, really good
Yes, they
hugs.
do.
They're the best
They
huggers of the
do.
equine world, I think. So,
Yeah, I got one this summer and it was like one of those hugs where, somebody that really knows how to hug and those they say to have like a good minute long hug. And I had a donkey. I was taking pictures of a horse in the field, and this donkey comes over and gives me one of those that it lasts. It wasn't strong, like it wasn't like what's the word for it? Like overbearing, and it
right.
wasn't like strong, but it just was held, and you're like, you go sort of that point where you're like, wait a minute, this is uncomfortable. No, it's not. Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, and then you sort of sink into it.
Yes.
And it was like yeah, it was this amazing. Like I'm down and because I'm down, because he was a little one, you know, I'm low to the ground too. And yeah, it
Yeah.
was just this length of hug of somebody that really knows how to give you a good hug and
Yeah.
holds it.
Yes. holds until you have almost that release, like that
Yes.
surrender of whatever it is you think you need to grip to or hold on to. For me, it was grief or it was some sort of like fear energy. That's the thing that's so interesting about those that know horses.
Hmm.
They either like want to touch or pat or do too much physical to the horses, or they don't
Hmm.
want the horses close.
Yeah.
That's you're encroaching on my boundary or my space. So they push horses away. I see this a lot in the horse
Yeah.
world. They push them away. You're not actually allowing the magic to happen if
Yeah.
you are constantly controlling who gets to touch who and whose space is who. And I understand there are certain horses that are not maybe safe. They were in trauma and they're
Sure.
dangerous horses. I'm not talking about that kind of outlier
Hmm.
energy. I'm talking about, or even wild horses. That's a different negotiation of
Yeah.
space, 100%. But like the domesticated horse, they know how to make a difference with their physical touch to us. And
Yeah.
so it's like us allowing that without trying to change it or control it. I think that's where all the magic is. And the donkey showed me that too. Like I used to fly between
Hmm.
Los Angeles and Colorado a lot, and I
Hmm.
would come back, and all I wanted was to sit on the ground with the mini donkey at the ranch in Colorado and get grounded because I had to get back into Mile High, and I could tell from flying I was just totally off balance. And so I
Hmm.
would just sit on the ground and breathe. And I mean, the wisdom that came in from the donkeys and like they
Yeah, I love
cuddle,
it.
they're so cool.
But
They're
it's that.
so cool.
I just want to go back to that boundaries of camp just for a second.
Yeah.
That idea of putting these boundaries up is like it's like the body going or the psyche or the mind or the ego going, no, I don't want to deal with this, as
Hmm.
opposed to dropping that and letting the horse come in and surrendering to it.
Mhm.
That's so interesting. That's such uh, a, a reverse way of thinking than many are taught.
Yeah.
Put the hands up, put the wand up, make that boundary because that's going to make you stronger. But making you stronger is actually making you have more walls.
100% in this space. Yeah. And
This
it's
space,
this
yeah.
level of like, I understand the boundaries with people that are crossing boundaries and they're crossing boundaries and they're not honoring you or they're
Hmm.
toxic and all of that. I understand all of that. With a horse or a donkey, that's primary nature, in my opinion, is incredibly angelic and very loving and very
Hmm.
kind. If they're coming up and wanting to contribute to you, and I'm not saying like they're looking on for food on you if you're carrying a bunch of food, that's different.
Yeah,
But if they're coming up and they want to contribute to you,
yeah,
why would we not let that happen? Like, why would we push that away just because? But that's what we've been taught that,
yeah.
they can't come in. And I think personally, my sense is that a lot of people, especially even horse people, are actually really afraid of horses
Yeah.
and they're afraid of, um, because they are afraid of their own power. And um, so if I ever feel you know, like I'll ask people, can you just wiggle your toes and feel the ground more while this horse
Mhm.
is up and notice where your feet are. If this horse starts to move in towards your feet, you move your feet. You can always set a boundary if you don't feel safe, but like you want to go just past that comfort zone or just past what we've been taught, and that's where
Yeah.
the magic is. But most
Yeah.
people don't even allow that. And I've watched the horses get frustrated and close up. I had a horse
Yeah.
recently in a session in Los Angeles and he just said they're not open. He was trying his darndest to help and he looked at me, he said they're not open and he walked away and I said, "Okay, no problem."
Fine.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 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 It's got to be a
So,
choice that's made
totally.
to be open. Yeah. I guess there's two schools of thought then. Is that idea of dropping those walls to let the horse in for that magic, or there is the flip side of this horse is teaching me to use my voice and use my boundaries against people that might be toxic in my life. Like I can see both sides.
They do both, and they do both. And that's why, again, it's reading the subtleties. I mean, personally, that's why I like animal communication training because then you can ask, are you doing
Yes,
boundaries? Are you doing energy? And they'll
exactly.
tell you right away. Actually, this is a boundary class. Okay, thanks. And I think because I'm so familiar with my horses, and when I work with new horses, I have to read it a little bit longer. Like I have to see it through a session or two.
Yeah.
But I can almost tell when the energy is more intense or chaotic when it's like
Yeah.
a boundary test
Uh-huh.
versus it being about like there's a softness and a clarity and an
Mm,
intention to where they're going, which is an energy work,
good point. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Wisdom.
know.
And that's what makes a great facilitator.
It's like it's playing with it because but then I get the like, aren't they just itchy? And I'm like, yeah, they're also horses and they can be itchy and they
Yeah,
want to rub up against
exactly.
you.
And
So
it
there's
doesn't
also
mean anything,
that.
they're just itchy.
Yeah. So there's also like, yeah, you're also doing, and I always say you're either gonna, in this work, you're either gonna look at it as human animal or spiritual teacher. And they are
Yeah.
in human animals sometimes, which is like,
Mm,
hey, like, I need
yeah,
to, I need some food right now, or I need this, and then
exactly. Yeah,
sometimes when
exactly.
they're teaching and it's just knowing how to read it. So like,
Exactly. So I think before we, if you would draw a card, that would be great. But
yeah.
before we do that, or you can do however you wish. I have one last question for you, and that is, what is in your heart that wishes to be shared as we close the gate on this episode? So that might be a card, that might be something you wish to share, then the card.
Yeah, I feel like, let me see if the horses want to bring anything through instead of like what I want to share. Because I don't know if there's anything in particular
Sure.
that's coming forward for me, but um, well, what they shared earlier, and I feel like it's coming back today, is this level of when we're in times of great change to find the things that keep us inspired to navigate the change, to know kind of our North Star, like the compass, our
Mm,
why, and to stay grounded. I think that grounding card came in earlier, right?
mm,
Which might look like hugging a tree. It might look like sitting on dirt. It might look like eating, root vegetables and that kind of thing. It looks different for each of us, how we get grounded, but then also to know the wisdom we need and to seek it and to find it. And that's what that's what you're doing here. And that's what
mm.
the stories are in equine leadership. And that's what, your show, this podcast is about as well. And it's like the biggest thing that I think too is that we have to find like-minded community, and that's not always easy in the horse world at times. Um, and I think part of what I've been thinking of lately is like, how do we act more like a herd? Because there's so many different pockets of the horse world, and I sometimes don't know where I fit. And I don't, and it might feel like I fit, and then all of a sudden I don't anymore. And so I don't want to be an island because no horse really likes to be alone, right? And at the
Right.
same time, you want to be in a herd that feels functional, because dysfunctional herds can cause a lot of stress, right? So
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
I think that's the other thing coming in. So yeah, be
Yes.
curious.
Thank you.
The way I
Yes.
like to work with the deck is, what do the horses most want us to focus on or grow right now? So
Hmm.
this would be
Okay.
specifically for your listeners, and it's coming in. Woo! And it comes out. This card keeps coming up. So this is my gelding, and his name's Winter. It's the strength card. And I think it's the strength of heart. It's like how and then the body being stronger so that it can move through all of the changes and all that's going
Mm,
on. For Earth to get stronger too, like we need Earth to get feeling good. And then like the mindset, like one of my mares the other day said to me, she's like, you have to stop worrying. And I'm like, I know, you're right. But it's even like that strength of like not letting the mind run away with you and knowing, how I've been pulling the strength card a lot lately. So I'll just tell you the part the horses said, because I wrote
okay.
their bit, then I wrote my bit, and then I wrote a mindfulness exercise you can do with them. But what they said about strength, and I'm curious what that means to you, Linda, but so Strength says your body wants to grow and stay strong so it can move, lift, carry, and run. Give it the time and energy it needs. Your heart also needs to stay strong and your stomach too. Give them what they need to thrive. So it does feel like a physical sense. But then when I wrote, actually, there's much more than just physical strength. There's also a strong mindset, strength of heart. People see horses as strong because they are in many ways. It's why people feel like they can cry on their shoulders because they have this rock-like presence of support and stability. That's what we were talking about with the donkeys.
Mhm.
Being in the center of chaos without judging or adding to it is a form of strength. Be the rock for yourself and others the way the horses can be for us.
Mm. I like that chaos bit.
I did too. That's what they mean about change. They're like, how do you find your center? So it says, being in the center of chaos without judging or adding to it is a form of strength. Yeah.
Well, and chaos can be, I wrote about this in my book. There was a whole chapter on chaos and creativity.
Mm,
And they can be friends. And if we're, it depends on whether we're aware of the chaos.
yeah.
If we're aware of it, or sorry, let's go the other way. If we're not aware of it, then it's just mayhem
Yeah.
and it's causing our body to feel certain ways. But if we can go, you know what? I'm sort of feeling chaotic today. This is feeling a little, so I'm going to stand in the middle of it and let it whirl around me and feel my feet on the ground, like you said there. And as soon as we start to do that, then we start to actually get some wisdom out of the chaos and get some creative, maybe there's some creative ideas that are spinning around us, but we have to stop and ground long enough to reach out and get those ideas.
Yeah. I love
So
that. That
that's
tied in all three cards so beautifully. The grounding, the strength of like the physical body,
yeah,
and then the wisdom of this like higher self intuition that's coming in that we
yeah,
can tap into at any time, which is the creativity and muse and
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
The thing I do is called I call it puttering. It's a you can look it up in the dictionary. But I will spend a morning and literally just putter around the house. And I might flit to somebody that's watching, going like, "What are you doing?" Because I'll do half of something and then I'll go do something else. But it's a creative and allowing chaos.
beautiful.
But in that, I'm relaxing because I'm not driving myself anywhere. It's just, oh, I'm gonna go here now. I gotta go over there. I'm gonna go over here. And in the end, it's very relaxing. And in the end, I usually have written down pages of notes and things. Oh, what about that idea? What about this idea?
Wow.
So,
Well, it's
yeah,
like beautiful because it's almost like you're in the flow,
exactly. Yeah,
which
yeah,
allows that like linear brain that's like shoulding and have to and all of that to like quiet. And
yeah,
so then you can be with like the wisdom
yeah.
instead of just this like focus. Because I've been struggling lately, like, do I have adult ADHD? Like almost was diagnosed as a kid, but I have that
Oh,
like, but I'm here and I'm there and and it's not even
yeah, allow
scattered.
it.
It's just like not able to focus as much. But then I'm thinking, my word for the year from the card deck was flow. And it's what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Just
exactly.
like not having this strictness or this, like it's a feminine energy to kind of be gathering versus
Exactly.
hunting, right?
Well, and it's not, we are never perfectly still. And
Right.
you talk about flow, and if I look to the river's always moving. My father was a biologist, so he would take us to ponds and rivers, but he'd take us to these little stagnant ponds. And he's always say, there's a world at your feet. And to me, to this day, it's like, oh, look down. We're always told to look up. Well, look, but sometimes look down because here's this what we think is a stagnant, stuck pond at our feet. But if we look really closely, if he gets out the mason jar and fills it up and shows us, there's a whole ecosystem there. So this idea of we're never really still. We can be
Yeah.
calm, but we're never really still
Yeah.
in beautiful ways. And we look at it as beautiful, not as in Heart, yeah, palpitations.
Well, and I almost think it's like we're never really stuck, is how I'm hearing
No,
it.
never stop.
Because
No.
still, I love stillness of 0 point, which is
Mm,
like point of creation, point of destruction, where there's literally like it's just there's nothing there. I
yeah,
love that practice for myself. But what I hear you almost saying is we're not really stuck. We're never,
never
it's not
stuck.
really like
Never.
locked into place. It's still moving and creating,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Think
we're
of
in
that
creation.
and think of it like ebb and flow.
Hmm.
And we don't honor the ebb.
Yes.
And as soon as I think I'm stuck, I consider the ebb and go,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I'm actually just ebbing right now
Yeah.
because I can't flow all the time. Like flow is flow, but there's ebb and flow, and I can't be flowing crazy all the time. The wave needs to go in and out.
Yeah.
And when I start
It's
to see that, I'm like, oh, okay, totally
I
different.
love it because that it reminds me of one of my first lessons from Felici was pause. Like, because I was
Yeah,
just trying to always do this, like, let's get it done. And it was this
yeah,
whole, like, my first mentor would literally yell at me, Stop your feet, just stop them. Because I was constantly moving. And then I would realize that as soon as I stopped my feet in groundwork with horses, I had the power to choose my next step and I could
exactly.
recenter. So this year has been a year of rest for me, and I do
Nice.
believe that rest is really important for equines and especially
Oh
equestrians.
yeah,
It's important for all of. It's like we have to get that balance back in too, you know.
absolutely.
So
Awesome. It has been
yeah.
so wonderful to speak to you today.
Thank you. You too.
I
I love the
love our
metaphor. I'm going to think
conversations.
about the pond quite a bit now.
There you go. Oh, in his 90s, he would have a jar in the car. He'd be
No
like,
way.
stop the car. And we go out for Sunday drives and he'd stop the car. There's a pond. Go get some water. And
No way.
absolutely.
What would you do with it? Oh my God, I love it.
Oh,
I was like a tadpole
he
girl.
would hold it up to the sunlight and still tell us from when I was a little kid. He would show us all the different bugs in it and that were moving around. And oh yeah, I used to hold when I had a farm. I used to hold summer horse camps. But one afternoon was my dad taking everybody out to the conservation area
Wow.
and showing people, he looking at puddles and saying, "There's a world down there. Look at it."
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah.
awesome.
So
I
there
love
is.
it. I love tide pools in the ocean, and I always was a tadpole girl as a
Oh
kid.
yeah.
And I was always like pulling up rocks, like what's under that? I was always trying to find frogs. And
Yeah.
I think kids today are so lost on that. Like they're looking
Oh,
at frogs on their iPad, and I'm like, let's go find a
no.
real one.
Let's
You
go
know,
find a
like
real one and see if it
that's
turns into a tadpole turns into a frog. And
right.
yeah,
Oh my God, I
oh,
love this
absolutely.
jar
Absolutely.
exercise. How cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for being with
Thank
us
you.
today. And thank you all for joining us in our circle at whatever moment in time you are listening to this. I hope you're inspired by Kate and her horses and her herd and her goats. And I will put a link to her equine leadership piece and anything else that we've spoken here today, especially her cards, in a summary when I post this. There's many ways that you can stay tuned and stay inspired. We have our Facebook group called Inspire Me Forward, and we have an equine leadership page. You can subscribe to any of the Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, everything will go on there, or this will go on there when I'm ready to post it. And please consider sharing this episode. I like to call it share it forward. We just never know who needs to hear the words that were shared in this sacred circle today. So if you have a chance to share it forward, that's appreciated. Because sharing one story might be the very thing another human being needs to open their heart to maybe a different tomorrow for them. So thank you for being here with us. And from my heart to yours, stay well, stay connected, and stay inspired.